Hello. It's a great day. The Piers Morgan versus Nick Fuentes debate happened yesterday. It was an interview slash debate, and it was great. I really loved it. I thought that overall Nick won the debate or the interview, if you could say there was a winner. It did really turn into a debate, a clash of ideas, and it was a clash of narratives, specifically the most important narrative that the boomers have upheld and Jews have upheld for so long, the World War II, Holocaust, don't create another Hitler narrative, which Nick, I would say, he won. And it was amazing. It was really good. I was glad to see it. I know how important this is, and I think a lot of people know how important this is. Other people may not know just how important this is. The reason that it's important is because you cannot be proud of being a white person or feel good about being a white person in a group of white people and talking about how good it is to be a group of white people without getting called a racist, without getting called some kind of name, or being forced to have diversity, or being forced to accept the idea that we need more people of other colors, other races, other belief systems, and everything like that. And Nick challenged that directly, head on. And he challenged it in almost like the most heaviest hitter, potent form, which is Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan, he's like really a tough interviewer. He interrupts, he cuts you off. He's got an entire team behind him of fact checking, and they're feeding him stuff using ChatGPT and everything, and they have they're attacking the entire time, and they're really he's really good at trying to push a message or a narrative or tear down who he's interviewing if it's like if it's an opposing narrative. And the point about narrative is so important because it is the narrative that white people are guilty, they should be ashamed. Who did the Holocaust? It was white people. Why did they do it? Because they hate Jews. Who was it? It was Hitler. He was a leader of the white people. So we can't have any proud white leaders. We can't have anything like that. We're going to get another Hitler. You're a Nazi. You're a neo-Nazi. You are anti-Semitic. You are, like, there's so many things just to make you sound, or make people not even want to discuss the subject. And Nick, he did it. He did it really well too, because it was a debate. It did turn into a debate, and Pierce was trying to get him to just sound awful so that people would condemn him, condemn his ideas. But the great thing is people agreed with him. Like, it's like he really won. Like, if you look in the comments, it's all, positive comments, joking comments. One of the funny ones I saw in there was it said Piers Morgan crossed the street to avoid a black person after the interview. It was funny. They touched on all different points. They played like all Nick's clips. I guess they do this thing where they play all the clips where he sounds terrible. Like he sounds like a terrible person and says stuff that would make him look or sound bad. And then they try and ask him, well, what do you think about that? Why did you say that? Do you take that back? Are you a racist? Are you misogynist? Are you anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic? And Nick, he owned all of it, and he didn't say sorry. He said, yeah, I am racist. The only thing in the beginning where you could say, lost a little bit, and this is the main point I want to get on, is that it's about frames. Narratives are about frames. It's kind of hard to talk about it because it gets confusing, but they're about frames, and there's this thing called holding frame. And I do believe that there's a true narrative, and that's the story of Jesus Christ. But there's this thing about frames. It's very important to talk about. But basically, Pierce, he he said something about Nick's father, that Nick's father had this racist comment that he said from Nick's was talking about on his show about his dad. His dad doesn't want to go eat at certain restaurants because it's like black people or whoever works there, Hispanics or something. So Pierce was saying, well, is your father a racist? Do you come from a racist family? Is that why you're racist? He was doing they call it like the making of a murderer, like trying to like, you know, analyze and discuss, why does this person think this? What must have happened in their background? Well, if you trace it back, their father was a racist, and his racist ideology stemmed from, and then this influenced, and this is why this is happening today, and oh, now we understand, and we can look down on these people and have the moral high ground because they are just so, we pity them so greatly. It's like, and Nick's like, no, leave my dad out of it. Don't attack my family when he's not here. You know, it's a new low for you to do that. And I thought that was, you know, a pretty good response. But Pierce, you have to give him credit. He did have his whole point was to try and make Nick look hypocritical. It's like, you say this, but then now you say this. How does that work? You say now you're not a racist, or you say your family's not racist, but then you said this about your dad saying something racist. How could that be? And what might that mean? It's the whole thing is to try and control the narrative and, you know, influence what people think and basically uphold the condemnation of racism. But Nick, like I said, he did really well on it. And you can watch the interview, and I really recommend that you do, but because it was really important. And the main reason it's important is because, like I said, it was about frame control. And this happens all the time. But people hear this and they think like, oh, now I'm going to do frame control in my real life. It kind of, you know, there's a lot more to it than that. But this was the arena. This is like the gladiatorial arena where everybody's watching these two people fighting. And this is what really matters, because now there will be more discussion, and it's like the dam is breaking, or like the walls are breaking in terms of ideas, and now the other ideas are getting through, and it was really important. And it's changing culture. Like, culture's changing really fast, and the main thing that's changing is that Jews are losing. The Holocaust narrative. So it came up. It was funny. Nick or Pierce, he said like he played a clip where Nick's saying like, Hitler's really fucking cool, and then Pierce is like, you think Hitler's really fucking cool? I don't think he's really fucking cool. I think he's a fucking monster. And Nick was saying, yeah, I do think he's cool. And then Pierce is like, do you really mean that? How could you mean that? Here, I have a friend who doesn't think Hitler was really fucking cool. And then he plays a clip of this like old Jewish guy talking about me mom and me dad died in the Holocaust. He's like a British old Jewish guy, and he's like, have some compassion for us. Me mom and me dad died in the Holocaust. Why would you be Team Hitler? You should be Team Mum. And why would you be Hitler? You should be Team Dad. Stalin and Hitler were so terrible, and they're monsters. And have some compassion. And Nick, his response was, we're over it. We're sick of hearing about the Holocaust. We're sick of being told to have compassion about the Holocaust for Jewish people. Look at what's going on today. And he actually shifted it and said, what does that old Jewish guy care about what's happening right now in the Holocaust that's going on, or the genocide that's going on in Gaza to the Palestinians? And what does he care about? And here's a really important point. He said, what about the white genocide that's going on right now? This is a really important point. huge, super important point. The reason is because now it's breaking the dam, the thought control, the guilt and the shame that was put onto white people. And he's saying white people, the live births, 50% of live births in England and in America are non-white. And within 100 years, whites are going to be a minority, meaning that it's going to be an Indian country or a Muslim country or some other kind of country, but it's not going to be white people anymore. And that's the important thing. That is so important. And that's the narrative that's shifting and changing. And the important thing is that it's the boomers, the older people, it's boomers, Gen X, and millennials, but less so millennials and Gen Z, especially not Gen Z, are upholding this narrative as much. And the thing is that, we're sick of it. We're tired of it. I'm 30 years old. I realized it was like, bullshit years ago. I knew what was going on years ago. Not to get too much into my own path, but I knew it was bullshit a long time ago. Like, me and my friends, we would, I had a group of friends from high school, and afterward, we all knew it was like hypocritical. It was stupid. It was like everything was getting faker. Everything was getting gayer. Everything was getting, you're a bad person if you say it's fake and if you say it's gay. It was getting more retarded. Everything was, you should be ashamed and you should feel bad if you say things are getting more retarded. And it just kept going that way. And no one could really understand it. So it's just like jokes started popping up. And it was like all these jokes, right? And in jokes. But the walls, like the territory kept shrinking that, white men could have. And it was like more minorities, more women, more, diversity of opinion. I'm not even sure. Like, it's like more neutered, more feminine, more don't offend anybody, more bubble wrapped. It was more childish too. Everything became more childish. Everything is like the lowest level of like, we have to paint smiley faces on everything because people cannot handle seeing a frowny face. But if they see a frowny face, you have to show and make the connection that immediately it'll become a smiley face, and it's a good thing. It'll be a good thing because some reason. It's like no one could really handle reality. No one could really handle anything like that. And so the narrative was just like so screwed up, and everybody was like kind of noticing it or understood it and on some level. Among my friend group, 10 years ago, like we knew a long time ago, like 2015 or so, like people kind of understood. And at the same time, the internet was really, kept growing. It's still huge, but the information was coming and in more and more spreading, I guess you could say, of ideas. And in a large way, things were really good. So no one really cared. And that, it's an insulation, but the insulation started to fade away. It's like when you're really insulated, you don't care as much. You know what I'm saying? It's like on TV a long time ago, we used to see ads of like the starving children in Africa. The point is, it was supposed to make you feel bad, so you donate. And people would just say like, oh, look at that, that's so bad. And then they'd switch over to looking at everything that's good. But now it's like, it's really affected people. It's like an attack on Western civilization, and it's changing people's lives, and the insulation is wearing away. So now people have like a mental insulation, in a weird metaphor to put it in, but it becomes delusion. And there's a lot more going on with that. That's essentially separating people's realities, and that is what's happening truly, that people's realities are separated ideologically and in many ways. But now Nick's challenging that narrative, which basically told all white people they're bad, you're a piece of shit if you're a white person, just because you inherited it. And just because you were born white, and just because your ancestors are, you know, slave owners, and or were slave owners, and, you know, did the Holocaust, and tried to kill all these Jews, and your ancestors killed all the Native Americans, and this is such a shameful thing, and now we have to have land acknowledgements. Now we have to have, you know, mandated diversity and all this stuff. And Nick's challenging that, and he brought all the facts and all the receipts, as you would call it, and it was great. He beat Pierce, really, he did. Like, all of the support is saying, like, thank you, Nick. Like, you know, they're joking around in the comments saying, like, Pierce Morgan lost this one, making jokes about it, and that's really important. It's the older people, and Nick was saying, like, you're on the way out, like the boomer generation's on the way out. It's the young people that agree with Nick, and that's true. It's true. I agree with him. I think that a lot of young people agree with him. They just don't want to say it. There's this term, crypto groyper. Groypers and crypto groypers. The groyper are his followers, and the crypto groyper, that would just mean like a secret follower. So a lot of people agree with him, and it's really important. I mean, I'm glad to see it, and no one really knows like what's gonna happen in the future. There are these like evil plans that are going on. It's a conspiracy. There is a true conspiracy that's going on in these like satanic pedophile billionaires, and, you know, the Rothschilds who own like the banks, and there's I don't actually know exactly who it is, to be honest, but I do know that there is something going on. I really should clarify that point, just so that if I do get challenged, if someone says, well, you don't even know who it is, then I have a better idea. But I think that there is something going on, obviously, and we will see what happens. And so Nick did like a video, his live show after, and he was talking about you know, what made Hitler really cool. Like, what was it that made Hitler fucking cool? Because in the interview he said it was the edits of seeing like the people marching, and the tanks and the uniforms and everything, and he said it was that it's white people who don't give a fuck, white people without limits. They took the chains off, and there was something about that I really it touched me, like, not in a weird way, but like I was like, that makes total sense. Like, it's the guilt and the shame removed. It's white people organizing, building, creating, you know, making a civilization that's beautiful. And it was really nice, and it's like electrifying. It's like something that you know, it makes you want to participate. It makes you want to be a part of it. It makes you want to be proud and join in. And it's like, what do we have now? Like, it's hard for me to almost do anything. And I don't mean that in a, like, just a way, and everybody would say like, oh, well, you're just depressed. It's like, when I go do stuff, it kind of sucks. Like, doing stuff is not that great because everything's weird. Like, you always have to cow down to women, minorities, and you can't talk about anything important or serious. It's like everything has to be childish. And I understand there's probably groups and stuff, but it's like you almost have to just focus on something else, and then everybody says leave politics and religion out of this conversation. Don't talk about anything that's really going on. And it's like, man, how do we exist like that? Like, how do we exist doing that? And the answer is we don't actually exist like that. We get erased, and that's what's happening. And Nick was saying that it's a white genocide. I'm really glad he brought that up and used the term. And it's more, the thing is that it's not like a one and done. It's like a shift. You know what I'm saying? It travels slowly, and It's really important, and I think that more and more we're going to see. I'm not too sure what we'll see actually. I kind of would like to know. I really hope that we would see more people going back to church. I hope that we would see. I would say more groups for white people where they don't feel afraid to even say that it's a white person group. Currently in Canada, we have. There's like, they call them active clubs, but they've been attacked so much as white nationalist and everything groups and whatever. And so it would just be nice to see, I guess acknowledgement is the first part, because you have to acknowledge that what's going on before you even realize it's a problem, before you can even say it's a problem. And so we're barely getting to the acknowledgement step here in Canada. I'll tell you a story. So I went to Orthodox Church. I'm trying to become I'm an inquirer. So actually now I'm officially an inquirer. I want to be a catechumen, which just means, I think, a learner or becoming initiated into for the Orthodox Church. And I went there, and I was talking to some other young men, white young men, like people like me. I'm a quarter Indigenous, but I'm 3/4 white. So like it's actually been confusing for me, but racially I feel more white, to be honest. I do have a connection to Indigenous people, but I just kind of feel more white because that's how I look. I have all these freckles and everything, and I have mostly white skin, but I feel more white typically, and that's who I've usually hung out with in the past, is white people. And oftentimes they don't even really know if I'm part Indigenous, but I do relate to Indigenous people as well, natives, on some level. And I went there, and I was talking to these young white men, and we were talking about like important topics. We were talking about like theology, and it was really an enjoyable conversation. It was like the first enjoyable conversation I've had in person in a long time. And I'm like really thankful for that, because I have not talked to people in a long time. Not to sound weird or anything, but I've talked to people, but the conversations suck. And this was like the first like good one in a long time. And I said, because typically what happens in most conversations, people are always trying to either not, or they want to explicitly, or they don't want to talk about problems. And so people were bringing up problems. I said, yeah, well, it's what's going on is a spiritual attack, but it's more than that. It's an orchestrated attack, and I believe it is a conspiracy, and that there are evil people attacking the Western civilization and trying to destroy it, and that they hate Christians, they hate Christianity, they hate Christ. And actually people were agreeing with me, yeah. And I was like really happy, honestly. But I said it's important to acknowledge it. Like, I think that's the first thing, is it has to be acknowledged in the first part, because at least here in Canada, nobody wants to acknowledge anything. It's actually so far in the other direction. It's in the direction of, well, first it's denial. It's like, that doesn't even exist. What are you talking about? What? That's crazy. What? That's not happening. That's crazy. And then it's like, oh, but look over here. We have Netflix. We have Marvel movies. Oh, but look, Funko Pops. It's like, dude, this is too crazy. We need acknowledgement as the first step. And so I was really happy that, first off, I was happy that I was able, like, thanks be to God that I was able to talk to some people. And I just sat down. Someone came to talk to me, and then a couple other people joined to sit down. It was after church. They were having a feast. So thanks be to God for the church. Be to God for the church community. Thanks be to God for the person who came up and talked to me. and we got into a good discussion. They're asking about my, if I go to a different church, where I'm from, like, and I was explaining, I'm Roman Catholic, and I watch these Jay Dyer videos on YouTube, and now I'm an inquirer into Orthodoxy, and we were talking about the differences, and they were saying, like, what? Oh, really? What's Roman Catholic? What are the differences? And I said, or what? Why did you decide to come to Orthodoxy? And I was like, well, there's doctrinal differences. I was like, there's a lot of reasons, but I was saying, like, Nostra Aetate, I don't agree with that. I think it's garbage. I think it's incorrect doctrine. And, I was explaining it, and it kind of became like almost like it was a little bit intense, honestly, which I don't mind that too much. And I feel like people a lot of times energy match. And in the past, I've really hated energy matching, because I find energy matching a lot of times to be passive aggressive and defensive from both sides. And I really don't like energy matching. I find it's almost like a feminine or female way of engaging. And what I mean by that is it's a safe way of engaging. It's like responding only what is appropriate socially, and not giving any of your own opinions, not really giving anything quote unquote dangerous or anything, and it's like it always has plausible deniability as well. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. I didn't say that. It's like, okay, but do you understand concepts? Do you understand like anything? Like, do you have any interesting things to say? Are you completely, just going to talk about how great everything is, and like you don't acknowledge reality that much? Or like, it's just weird, and it's all these like safe topics that people go to, but and it's kind of like a script as well. At least it feels that way. It's very weird, but I was responding as I felt, and I think people were, in a sense, energy matching a little bit, but they were actually, it was like everybody could hang in a way, and I was impressed with these guys, how much they knew about doctrine. And I learned a little bit as well, like I was saying that the Protestant position is circular on their argument of sola scriptura. Sola scriptura is that it means scripture alone. And this is the Protestant way of saying we don't need the early church. We don't need tradition. We don't need all that stuff. We just have the Bible. We only need the Word of God. That's it. Well, the problem with that, and I said this, I was like, Protestants can't tell you where they got the Bible from. They can't tell you why they have the specific books in their Bible. There's other churches. There's churches that have different books in their Bible, like the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has like completely different books in their Bible that other churches don't even include at all. Well, why didn't the Protestants follow sola scriptura using that scripture? They can't tell you that, because it's a circular argument. Because in the early church, there wasn't even like a very solidly put together Bible. There was different books and manuscripts, but they weren't all formulated into one book. And so it's like you need the early church. The body of Christ is the church. And yeah, they don't have any kind of thing that they can say toward that. And these other guys understood right away, and they were agreeing with me, and they were sharing things about the recent meeting between the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. And we were talking about like, well, there won't be a communion between the two churches, which is like a reunification, because they're split apart, right? In 1054, there's a great schism, and they're talking about they want full communion or to return together. But I was saying, like, well, how are they going to do that if they don't want to talk about any of the disagreements? Because there's massive disagreements, like on the Filioque and on other teachings, and the Catholic Church would have to admit that they're wrong. So anyways, we're talking about this stuff. It was great. And I felt like the conversation went on for a while too. It was like an hour-long conversation. And I liked it because it was like there was lulls in the conversation, but no one was like really like, you know, it was like, you know, people were talking when they felt like they wanted to talk, or and then there was highs in the conversation, and I liked it. And my social skills are not great. My social skills are not great. But it's nice to do it again, like to talk to people again. Dude, I don't really talk to people. So it's nice to get back to talking to people a bit. Ah, yeah. I'm really happy about the Pierce Morgan Nick Fuentes debate, interview/debate, and you know, it'll be nice to see what happens in the future. But yeah, I mean, I think debate is so important, really, and I feel like I'm getting slightly better with conflict as well, because so I have complex PTSD, which is like, you know, you're always in kind of like a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, and usually I'm in the fawn mode, which is like just agreeing because I'm afraid of conflict. There was just like this like screaming matches and fighting all when I was growing up, and just like it was horrible. And so I don't want to make anyone mad, and but now I'm, you know, slowly learning how to engage and talk to people, and, you know, I guess you could say hold my ground, but rather speak for the truth as well at the same time. And I think that's really important. So yeah, thanks be to God. I very thankful. Yeah. And yeah, so it's really nice. It's really nice. I've been feeling like less I don't know about less psychotic. I don't even like using the term, but I feel like more almost like back to reality in a way. And sometimes when I'm walking around, it's like I have this terrible headache, and I you know, I persist. I keep going. I keep going to the gym. I keep going to the library. I read the Bible there, and I try to stick to routine. And sometimes I can't do it, but sometimes I like push through and persist. And even sometimes I like let myself feel the pain as well. When I do meditation, I try and let myself feel all the pain as well. I'll tell you something very weird that happens to me. Sometimes my face will like distort from the pain, and sometimes I wonder even if it's like a demon. And I don't like saying this because I don't like want to curse myself or anything, but I want to say what's true. And it's like sometimes it feels like I don't know if I have a demon inside me, and I really don't like thinking that. But if it's the truth, and if it's possible that is the way, you know, I ask for God's saving grace to cast out any demon that's inside me. And when I do my meditation, sometimes my face will like distort into strange shapes, and I try and like sit through it. And also I'm asking for the Holy Spirit, and I'm trying to meditate on God's word as well. But at the same time, I'm trying to like let my thoughts go to and feel what's going on in my body as time moves forward, because time is always moving forward, right? But I'm trying to feel what's in my body, and I feel a ton of pain, like a ton of pain. Seriously, I have a herniated disc in my lower back, and it's just like in so much pain. I don't take any medication for it, but when I feel into it, oh, it hurts, seriously. I think that on a certain level, our minds try to protect us from, you know, constant and chronic pain by just blocking it out. And it might be there, like the body might be there in pain, but our mind tries to block it out, maybe actively or subconsciously or something. But trying to allow yourself to relax and to feel it. In order to relax, it's like you have to feel it in a way and go through it. That's so painful. Seriously, it's so painful. And then so I also feel like kind of like a headache when I'm walking around, and then I just kind of like allow myself to feel it sometimes and not try and run from it, basically. And then if I do that, it's almost like I come more back to reality in a sense. And I really don't love talking about, it's like it's a strange fascination that is about the conversation around reality, beliefs, and God as well, which kind of ties into all those. But and I don't really love the conversation around mental illness, even though I have a degree, and you know, I've been told I have these mental illnesses and stuff, which is like anxiety, depression. I've been told I had schizophrenia before. You know, it's like I really don't love that, because you're condemned essentially at the point of utterance. You're condemned. Reason is, no one wants to be around that kind of a conversation, basically, because it's an unknown. It's chaos. It's rejection. It's stigmatized. It's, you know, it's basically bad in people's associations. So I really don't even love bringing it up, to be honest. But I have a fascination around, you know, reality, beliefs, and you know, why people do what they do. And so I kind of understand at this point. Like, I basically know a lot of it. And yeah, so, but that's kind of why I'm writing this book. But yeah, I don't know. I really should just get this dang book written, because I feel like I'm kind of like stuck in a sense, thinking about it, talking about it, not having it look done for people to look at. And once if I ever do, and I, you know, I pray that I do, if I ever get the draft done, then I have to get people to look at it. I have to get feedback. I have to write more, and then I could put it into a book format. And then, you know, it's just like, that's not like the end of it. Like, there's more to do. And then I could try and sell it. Probably people not even gonna care. And then I could try and, like, you know, or I don't even know if I'd sell it. I'd give it away for free or something. But just see where that kind of like journey would take me. I don't even really want to use that term, journey, but see where that would go. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but all that is in, it's kind of like just in almost like a branch down the road, because I haven't gone down that branch, because I'm always thinking about going down. And it's like, dude, that's crazy. I shouldn't do that. That's kind of like delusion. I should just put in the work, you know. The action is important, right? So, but putting in the work is hard. So, yeah. Anyway, that was my long rant for today. It was important, and I think that debate between Nick and Piers, and I think yeah, I think that it was like a debate between authority and truth, authority versus truth. Piers Morgan representing the authority, which is wrong, and Nick representing truth, which is right, obviously, because authority doesn't always have to be right. And the only thing I think Nick was wrong about in the debate, although Piers actually did kind of make him look a little hypocritical in the beginning, but I think Nick actually, he may have won that just based on telling Piers, don't attack my father when he's not here, because he can't defend himself. But I think the only thing Nick was wrong about was the Catholic theology. And Piers is also Catholic. I think they're both wrong about it. And you know, talking about the Pope and everything. So, yeah. Saying that that's the Supreme Pontiff of the church. No, if you look, that's one of the pontiffs, but they're prima inter pares. You have to look at he's the first among equals. You have to look at the historical church, and there's a lot there. And yeah, I think no one but boomers and the super woke people really care about all this stuff. And I think that the culture's shifting. I think that the world is shifting, which is good. I'm glad to see. Yeah, so thanks be to God.